Hello, I am Priya Nandanwar. In this video, I am going to explain the functional and technical analysis of Stripe payment integration system. So, first of all, I am giving the introduction of Stripe payment integration system. What is Stripe payment integration system? So, it is nothing but processing online payments in a web application. Okay, which means Stripe payment integration system enables users to make their payments using multiple methods such as card, debit card, credit card payments, UPI payments, payments through wallet, etc. So this is the main objective of this project, and for this I am using the PSP, Stripe PSP. What is PSP? PSP is nothing but the payment service provider, which allows business to accept online payments from customer. So for that, customer don't need to have their own direct communication to the banks or card networks or other payment methods to make a payment. So PSP takes the responsibility of uh, direct communicating with the banks. So PSP is nothing but which PSP allows the user or customer to make successful payments without having to build and maintain their own direct connection to the banks or card networks. And PSP does this or provides this through a single API. So I am here using the Stripe PSP. So first I'm going to explain the functional analysis of the functional analysis of Stripe payment integration system. So what is payment integration system? Actually, payment integration system is nothing but it is the interface between the client and the PSP. That means, see, I'm going to explain here with the diagram. So consider this is a client, we can say this is a client machine, this is a client machine, and this is Stripe PSP. Stripe PSP. What is PSP? Is nothing but payment service provider. Okay, so this is client machine and this is Stripe PSP. Okay, so the payment integration system is the interface between these two machines, between these two systems. This client machine can communicate with the Stripe PSP through this payment integration system. So this is Stripe payment integration system. Yes, and here is the client. Client means customer. Okay, this is customer. Okay, see, this is client machine, customer is working on the client machine, that means it customer selects the goods or products whichever he wants to purchase on this client machine. Okay, so here customer selects whichever goods he wants to purchase on this client machine. What happened next? The client machine sends the order information to the Stripe payment integration system. It sends order information. Okay, the client machine sends the order information to the Stripe payment integration system. So how the payment integration system get connected to the Stripe PSP? So the Stripe PSP actually gives all the documentation onto the Stripe site. So here the Stripe PSP provides create session API. Stripe PSP has a create session API for making the checkouts. So the Stripe payment integration system has to call that API. Means create checkout session API. Create checkout session API means Stripe PSP has already the checkout session API. Our project just has to call that API, whatever the path is given. The Stripe payment integration system calls the create session API of the Stripe PSP. So what the create checkout session does? So here is the flow of create checkout session. How the create checkout session works, here is the diagram of that. See, the client sends the order information. Okay, I'll explain this later. So first just know the basic of this project. So Stripe payment integration system calls the Stripe PSP to make a payment, to make further procedures to make a successful payment. So it has to call create checkout session API of the uh, Stripe PSP. Okay, this create checkout session API is actually in the form of encoded, is in the form of form encoded, URL encoded form. Okay, then the Stripe PSP returns the response in JSON format. This is the response. This is nothing but the request. We are requesting call to the create checkout session API. The Stripe PSP creates a checkout session. What means that create checkout session? It actually creates a payment page, which is also called as Stripe hosted payment page, and that the URL of that Stripe hosted payment page is returned into the response. The response is actually is in a JSON format in which URL is mentioned, URL of Stripe hosted payment page. So this URL is received by the Stripe payment receives the Stripe payment integration system, and it gives back to the client machine the URL of Stripe hosted payment page. Okay, so payment, this Stripe payment integration system gives the URL to the client machine. So okay, so client machine gets redirected to that URL. That means it gets redirected to that Stripe hosted payment page. So redirected to the Stripe hosted payment page. This is nothing but the Stripe hosted payment page. Okay, the client machine redirected to this payment page where the customer has to enter the payment details, and he has to select the payment methods. So Stripe PSP provides various payment methods such as UPI, credit card payments, debit card payments, wallets, etc. So customer can select the payment mode, and he has to enter the uh, payment details according to the payment mode. Then the Stripe hosted payment page, the Stripe PSP gets connected to that particular bank. So this is the responsibility of Stripe payment service provider, which directly connect to the bank directly connects to the bank. So it processes the request, and after the successful payment, it gives control, or it returns back to the client application. It returns back to the client application, whichever application was running. For example, client selects wants to purchase from Amazon, so he selects their products on the Amazon website, and gives the client machine gives information to the Stripe payment integration system, and all that Stripe payment page has been created, and customer makes the successful payment on that Stripe hosted payment page. And then that after the successful payment, it goes back to that Amazon page only. Okay, and with that it gives the payment status. It updates the payment status for that ID to in the Stripe PSP, uh, in the Stripe PSP. So the PSP system gives that payment status to our Stripe payment integration system. Payment status gives that payment status to the to the payment integration system. So it gives a payment status as a webhook. What is webhook? Webhook is nothing but a notification. So PSP system generates a webhook to define the status of the payment, or it gives the notification, or it generates the event which states the payment status, either it is failed or success. So that payment status is received by the Stripe payment integration system. uh, Status is either success or fail. So according to that status, it gives that status back to the client machine. So that the client can understand what is the current payment status, whether it is a success or whether it goes fail. So this is in general the functional analysis of Stripe payment integration system. So how the checkout works, let's see some technical analysis of this. So first I'm going to explain this how checkout works. So Stripe provided this. So see here, this is a client machine on which the customer can select goods whichever he wants to purchase. This is a server. This server is nothing but the payment integration system, our project. This is Stripe API and Stripe checkout. So here, see, client sends the order information to the server, to the system. Then this server in turn calls the Stripe API. But which Stripe API? Create checkout session Stripe API. This system payment integration system, that is nothing but server, it calls the Stripe API. It calls the Stripe create checkout session API. So what is checkout session of the Stripe? Actually this checkout session which is used to accept the online payments, and the it creates a payment page that the customer can visit to make a payment. So that URL of that created payment page is sent back to the server as the as the response from the Stripe checkout session Stripe API. So it returns checkout session. That means with this session it returns, Stripe API returns the URL of that payment page. So then redirect customer to URL from checkout session. So the the customer gets redirected to the provided URL for making a payment. That URL, on that URL there is a Stripe hosted payment page. So this is Stripe checkout. Customer completes the payment. That means he choose the mode of the payment, and according to the mode he fill ups the uh, payment details and completes the payment. After completing the payment, the control goes back. That means the customer returns to their application, whichever application he was purchasing his goods. The control get returns back to that application, and with that it handles the fulfillment also. This Stripe API and Stripe checkout is nothing but the parts of Stripe PSP. That means Stripe PSP returns the fulfillment, or we can say it returns the payment status to the server. That means our Stripe payment integration system. So according to that status, whichever status is, we sends back to the client. client machine, so that customer gets the correct idea about what's his current status of the payment. Okay, so this is how checkout works in Stripe PSP. So now we are going to check the technical analysis of this create checkout session API. So here is create a session. So this is PSP provided a create a session, create checkout session API. See, this is the response. Here in the response there is a ID which uniquely identifies each session, so that systems can identify differences between multiple payments. This is for each uniquely identifying each and every session. So these are the response in JSON format. So here is, yes, this is the URL. This is the URL for a Stripe hosted payment page where the payment can be happen. So let's check this session. So this is a curl session. So I am copying this curl command and I'm checking it on Postman browser. So I am importing this, pasting here the curl command and importing into the collection. So here, this is the URL for calling the create checkout session of the Stripe PSP. That means if we have to call the API of the create checkout session API of Stripe PSP, we have to follow this URL. The end point, we can say the end, this is the end point to call the Stripe PSP's create checkout session API. And this is the post request. So here in the authorization, its auth type is basic auth. And username, what is username? When we create account on, or when we create account on Stripe website, they provides us they provides us to they provide us two API keys. They have two modes, one is for live mode and one is for testing mode. So we are testing now, so they provide two keys for one API key for testing purpose and one API key for live mode. So we are testing here. So testing API key starts or initialized with sk underscore test, and the live API keys started with sk underscore live. So here is username is nothing but the test API key itself, and this password is not required here because we are in testing mode. Then body, see, we are requesting, or we can say we are making API calls. Making API calls means we are requesting something to the Stripe PSP. Yes, so this is a request, and the request is in the form of form URL encoded. Its format is XWWW form URL encoded. So what we are requesting, see here, line items 0 price. Line items is nothing but an array. Line items is array where the selected products which customer wants to purchase are stored inside this line items array. 0 is just the index number. 0 means first item, first product in the line items array. Price means the price of 0th item, the price of 0th index item, that means the price of first item in the line items array. So this is the price. Then line item 0 quantity, the quantity of the 0th index line item, that means the quantity of first product is 2. Mode, payment mode, and success URL. So success URL is a URL on which system is going uh, after the successful payment only. So if the payments get successful, then this success URL get displayed on the browser. So let's check this. I am sending the post request to the Stripe PSP. Oh, see, here is an error, resource missing. What is the error? Error is about price, no such price. This price is saying this is no such price is available. So I'm going back to the documentation. So this is line item and the price. Okay, it's child parameters. So this is price parameter. So the ID of the price or plan object. So I don't know the ID of the price, so here one of price or price data is required. So I am neglecting this price and I am looking forward to the price data. So what price data says, data used to generate a new price object in lies. Yes, this is a possible case with me. So I am using this, I'm going to use this price data rather than price. So what are the required parameters for this price data? So here are some child parameters. Okay, this is the required field, currency. So if that means if we have to use the price data, then we have to it's mandatory to send a value for this currency parameter. So I'm using the price data, so I'm deselecting this because either we have to use price or price data. So we are unaware of the ID of the price. So for sending it in line, I am using price data. And its mandatory field, required field is currency. So I am using here currency in euro. Okay, this is done. Now I am checking whether it is working or not. See, that error has been gone. Now the new error is you must specify either product or product data when creating a price. So let's check this product and product data. So here it is product, the ID of the product that this price will belong to. But as yes, this is the same problem with we arrives with price and price data. So product, the ID of the product we don't know, so we are going for the product data. So data used to generate new product object inline. Yes, one of the product or product data is required, so we are using this product data. See what are its required parameters. Yes, name. If we want to use product data, then we have to mention this name compulsory. So let's take the path: line items, price data, product data, line items, 0th index product, price data, product data. Okay, price data, product data, and its compulsory or mandatory field is name. So for example, I am purchasing a user wants to purchase a laptop of 1 TB RAM, a laptop with 1 TB RAM. So I am again sending the post request. Okay, price requires an unit amount. Yes, it is obvious, we are sending the product whatever wants to purchase, we are sending the currency, we are sending the quantities, but we don't know the unit amount of product. So it is okay. So this is unit amount and unit amount decimal. So unit amount, unit amount means it is a non-integer, non-negative integer which represents in cents. So and unit amount decimals means decimal, it accepts decimal value in cents. So I'm going to use this unit amount, line items 0, price data, and unit amount. For example, its unit amount is 10,000 cents. So now check this. Yes, see, we are requesting to call the, we are requesting for Stripe PSP's create checkout session API, and here we are getting the successful response from the Stripe PSP. That means we are we 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 are that means this request gets succeeded in calling the checkout session. So this is the ID. As I said earlier, the ID is to uniquely identify each session so that he can say process that payment securely, and sends the payment request, sends the payment status with of that particular session with the help of this ID. So this is the ID, this is object checkout session. So here is all the, see, this response is in JSON format. So we are requesting to API through form URL encoded format, and we are getting response in JSON format. So here must be the URL. See this success URL, this is the success URL. If our payment gets success, we are getting this URL, we are redirected to this URL, and this is the URL of the Stripe hosted payment page. So let's take this URL and check on the browser. I'm pasting here and pressing enter. See, here is, this is the Stripe hosted payment page. So when we call Stripe PSP's create checkout session API, it generates this payment page. So this payment page allows the customer to select the payment method and enter its details. So for testing purpose, for the testing purpose, the Stripe provides the provides the testing cards. Okay, testing. Yes, these are the test card numbers. mm, mm, Test card numbers. Test card numbers. These are provided card numbers for the testing purpose by the Stripe. So I'm going to select this Visa debit and going to that URL. So customer has to select the correct payment mode through which he wants to pay for the goods. So I'm pasting here the card information. It is mentioned in Stripe that for this card CVV can be any 3 digit and date can be any future date. So I am entering here the future date and CVC any 3 digit, email.com, the name on the card, and see here is the total payment price. See, laptop 1 TB RAM, for which we have to, the quantity is 200 euro each, so the customer has to pay 200 euro for this. So customer has to enter these details and see, when the customer click on the pay button, the click on the pay button, in real time it goes back to the client application, whichever application from which he is placing the order. It goes back to that application. But here we are doing it on testing purpose, so when we click on pay, it goes to the success URL which was mentioned here. So this is the success URL. So if this payment goes successful, the customer redirected to this URL. So let's check this whether we are getting that URL. So pay. No thanks. Yes, payment is success. Yes, this is process is going here. It is processing. It just have to move on that success URL. Let's wait for a minute. Okay, till then we are going back to this diagram. So this is the functional and technical analysis of Stripe payment integration system. We're just checking this create checkout session API. So this, yes, yes, we got that success URL example.com success. That means our payment goes success. So for so this is all about this, the functional and technical analysis of Stripe payment integration system, in which I explained the functional flow of this Stripe payment integration system, how the Stripe payment integration works as the interface between client machine and the Stripe PSP. And I also explained the Stripe PSP's one API create checkout session, in which it creates it receives whenever it receives the API call from Stripe payment integration system or any server, it creates a payment page and uniquely identifies that session by giving its unique ID, and creates a payment page which is called as Stripe hosted payment page for that session ID. And on that session, on that URL of Stripe hosted payment page, the client machine gets redirected to that page to make a successful payment. So uh, this is how this goes. And Stripe PSP provides a way to customer, or to, we can say, it allows the business to accept the accept the payments from customer. And customer does not need to have direct contact with the bank for this, for making this successful payments. All this responsibility is taken by the Stripe PSP. So Stripe PSP maintains their own direct communication, on direct connections to the banks, to the card networks, or we can say to with the payment gateways, for making the successful payment through a single APIs. So this is all about the functional and technical analysis of Stripe payment integration system. I hope I explain it nicely. Thank you.